Welcome back to our exploration of really, really big numbers and specifically how understanding place value can help us really clearly understand these big numbers and, more importantly, work with those big numbers. And so let's take a look at how many cells there might be in the human body. So think about all the cells in your body. First of all, you have a lot of different kinds of cells. You have muscle cells, you have blood cells, you have skin cells, all different kinds of cells. And each one of those cells is so tiny that you cannot see it with the naked eye. And you cannot see it with a magnifying glass. You can only see cells under a microscope. That's how tiny they are. So now think about average human body. Of course, there's going to be a big range because some people have quite small bodies. Think about a baby all the way to a very tall adult. So there's going to be a range. So this is just going to be an approximate estimate. But imagine something so tiny that you have to use a microscope to see it. How many of them would have to be packed in and all stuck together to make you? Make an estimate. You can write it down if you like to keep track, or you can just think of it in your head. And I'm going to share with you around how many cells there are in the human body. Well, it's 50 billion, 100 million. That's a massive number. Okay, but if you think about it, if I really stop to think about it, well, first of all, human minds, which are full of millions of tiny cells, by the way, but the human brain has a really hard time grasping numbers. Our brains are really good at working with numbers in the sort of 8 to 12 range, but when you get bigger than that, it becomes way more challenging, which again is why we have these strategies like place value to help us keep track of all of those digits. 50 trillion is a lot, but it kind of makes sense if they're that tiny. I'm pretty big. I must be made up of, if I'm made up of microscopic things, there must be a lot of them. So let's take a closer look at our place value chart here. Okay. We have a lot of zeros in this. And again, that's because it's an estimate, because nobody is going to take apart a body cell by cell and count them all individually, right? But we have our units period, which contains our ones, tens, and hundreds. We have our thousands period. Here, I'm going to make sure that we know what we're talking about. Our units period, which contains ones, tens, and hundreds. We have our thousands period, okay, which contains ones, tens, and hundreds, that being 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. Okay, so you see how we can have this 1, 10, 100 over and over and over again because they go with the different periods. Then we move to our millions period. 1 million, 10 million, 100 million. And there is no 1,000 million, okay, because we've gotten to our 3 digits, which means it's time to start a new period. And that period is called the billions. So again, 1 billion, 10 billion, 100 billion. And there's no 1,000 billion. Once again, we're going to start a new period. This one is called trillion. Okay, 1 trillion, 10 trillion, 100 trillion. So you can see how these periods really help us put some structure into these massively large numbers. Okay, if it was bigger than the trillions period, then we're into quadrillions. And again, that can just keep going until infinity, and still it won't stop. Well, I mean, I guess infinity by definition is it never stops. So numbers can get as big as they want to get and never stop. They can also get as tiny as they want to get and never stop. And that's blowing my mind. So we're going to move on. All right. How do we write this number in standard form? Well, we're going to remember that we're just going to pull all of those digits down from our place value table. And we remember that we put a space in between periods. So our standard form of this mind-bogglingly large number is going to look like this. Okay. Now, if you see that number and it's not in a place value chart and you do not know that this digit 5 at the very beginning here just happens to be in the 10 trillions place, you can do this little trick I do. If I see a massive number and I'm not sure, I go, okay, hundreds, units, thousands, millions, billions. Well, this is my trillions period, and this one is in the second place, so it must be 10. So then I start there and I go, okay, a 5 in the 10 trillion, 50 trillion, 100 million, and so on. Okay, so I use those periods to help me know that this number is in fact 50 trillion and not, I'm not going to start and go 5 million, 550, 100,000 billion. Okay, I'm just going to go units, thousands, millions, billions. This bad boy here is the trillions. And then I can break it down into ones, tens, hundreds. And then I know how to say this number. Clear all that green writing off of the screen. Okay. Let's talk about it a little more. Word form. Again, we are just writing out the words in the way we say them. I'm going to close my camera for a second so we can see the whole word. 50 trillion, 100 million. And I didn't need to turn off the camera because it fits. So I hope that helps you guys get your minds around moving past millions and using place value to help you understand and explore numbers that go beyond a million.